You gotta set up the computer too, though.
I know. Oh, God. We kind of did it. We did it. We're here.
Here we are.
Hey. Wait, is this your personal one? No. Okay.
No.
Didn't make that mistake again. So we have a lot to talk about.
So much to talk about today. Yes.
So much to talk about.
Gonna be crazy.
Probably a lot to talk about. So what did we do? What did we do last week?
We went to the middle of Pennsylvania,
Central
PA,
Central Pa.
and met with Wicket and Craig. Well, we met with
Met
everyone.
with Wicket and Craig.
And both of them. No, we mostly met with Dave, who's our sales rep from Wicket and Craig. But we also got to meet everybody that was there that day. So that was really, really cool. Also, just to preface all of this, please ask questions as we go because
before we begin,
yeah,
please ask questions, and that's what this is, a Q&A. So if you have questions, thoughts, comments, do it.
about anything and everything. But going to the Tannery was amazing. It was totally amazing. I mean, it ended up being like just quite an adventure altogether. We drove out Thursday. We went to Penn's Cave with Wes, which was really fun. I wanted to plan like one, fun thing for him to do while we're out there besides going to the actual tannery. It's like a huge natural cave that has water in it, and you get to go on a boat and go through the cave, and he absolutely loved it. It was really cool.
It was really cool.
And
they put a lot of effort into like the lighting.
yes.
Which I didn't know what to expect at all, but
No, it was
pleasantly surprising.
Yeah, it was really fun. They also have like an animal sanctuary there, so when we go out next time, I think we'll probably do that part. You get to go on like a cool safari bus and like get to see a bunch of animals. So
Appreciate your work. Do you deliver worldwide?
we do. Yes, thank you for
check
your
your
question.
local taxes and
Your VAT tax.
customs, VAT taxes. We don't want any surprises.
Yep.
Good question though. Anyway,
Yeah, so we did that. Then we went over to our hotel, which was in State College, which is like the closest kind of like big-ish town that's to the Tannery. It was only like, 45 minutes drive from
about that.
State College to the Tannery, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, first of all, Wes was highly impressed with the hotel, which is hilarious because the Holiday Inn Express. But I didn't really think about, he had no idea what a hotel was.
Yeah, he's never been to one.
Yeah, and it didn't dawn on me, and he was just, had so many questions, like, well, how are they going to know, like, how are we going to get in? Where are we going to sleep? And I'm like, there's beds, like every room has beds, and he's just
This is how a hotel works.
fully blown away by the concept of a hotel and just was so into it, and mostly into jumping from one bed to the other. Yeah. But then at 4 a.m., the fire alarm went off, which was intense because it wasn't even just like the normal thing. It was a constant and it was so loud. And Wes can sometimes be a little sound sensitive, and so he just freaked out.
Well,
until we kind of, we all kind of freaked out,
like, what's happening?
To be honest with you. Yeah.
Is this real?
And once we kind of were like, this is a fire alarm, just like you do at school, like we're gonna leave now. And so yeah, we ended up staying outside for like an hour or so.
Yeah, about.
There was no fire, but something did actually set off the alarm.
Something tripped their sensor alarm.
And like everything, like the sprinkler system got filled up, and luckily all our stuff was fine and safe and everything was fine. But I got no sleep, so it already took me like forever to go to sleep just because I was in a new location. That's just always how it is for me. And then I just did not go back to sleep after that. But Wes luckily did, so that was good.
He saw a fire truck. He was happy.
He was psyched on the fire truck, although he did just keep asking, like, I want to go back
to
bed. Yeah.
Anyway, we went to the Tannery.
We did.
In Curwensville, Pennsylvania. And it was awesome.
It was amazing.
It's hard to kind of describe, I think, but
yeah,
Yeah, we're super. Well, first, thank you for having us there, and
Yes,
thank you for showing
so
us around and
much, Dave.
answering all the crazy questions we asked.
Yes,
we asked you
including
guys.
Wes's questions.
I don't know if you guys know, but like working at a tannery isn't like an easy job.
No, it's very physical.
Super difficult.
And you also have to be
when-
very knowledgeable too about what you're doing.
When you buy like a side of leather, that's half of a cow. So these guys in the beginning are working with double the size. They're working with a full
cow.
hide.
Yeah.
And it's like soaking wet.
It's close to like 100 pounds,
Yeah,
right?
it's not an easy physical job.
No. Actually,
to
I
do.
think it's closer to 200 pounds when it's full, and then they quickly split it in half, and then it's like 100.
One of the first steps is dehairing and splitting.
Yeah.
Splitting it in half down the center. So huge appreciation to everybody there who does like all the difficult work.
Yes.
So that we can have the cool, awesome, amazing leather that we do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, first that.
Yes.
And it was cool to see a warehouse just full of hides everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. And just a huge thank you to Dave for taking the time out of his day. We were there for what, 2 hours at least?
I don't
Was
even
it more
remember,
than
but
2 hours?
it was not a short period of time.
No,
It was
we
a
were
while.
there for quite a long time. Just like, I mean,
Wes did pretty good.
Wes did pretty good. He
At the end, he lost it, but it's okay.
Yeah, he was tired. I mean, and probably hungry, which is just what happens to a 4-year-old. But you know, Dave really like took us around, showed us everything, explained how everything is done,
Introduced us to everyone.
introduced us to everybody, was asking us questions about like what more we wanted to see with our hides and things like that.
And a lot of the people there have like decades of experience.
Yes.
So that was really cool because we get the questions we asked are probably more surface, but like they have like a depth of knowledge to help us figure out like what we want
And what we can do.
What we can do. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, no, it really, really was. It was amazing. It was so much fun. Yeah. So, when we were there, we did discuss just like some things that we would like to see with our hides in particular, which is really cool, and we're excited to kind of work on that a little bit. And then also we discussed potentially doing like custom color with them and kind of how all that would work. So I think that's something that we're going to start like talking about with them and kind of like working through the strategy of that.
I'm kind of like mentally between two ideas. Like, do we do like a seasonal yearly
Right.
color, or do we try to develop like a Hemlock and Hyde signature color that's just
That we
it's ours,
keep
that's,
all the
like,
time.
new to our collection,
Yeah.
and just like embodies our brand.
Yeah.
Because it is a commitment. It's a commitment to a certain number of hides, and it's not cheap. So it's something that we can't do both. I would love to do both,
Yeah.
but for our size of operation, it doesn't really make sense to do both. So
Yeah.
those are the two main ideas that I have about adding color and maybe taking one away. We're limited.
So yeah.
But speaking of color,
Yes. I think the next thing is we have talked about how we were going to be dropping a color shortly, and we basically have officially done so, which was the.
no, we haven't officially.
Oh, no? Okay. I don't know. Why are you making me talk then?
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
But we are dropping the Russet Latigo. That is basically the lightest color in our collection right now. But we're replacing it with a new color that is quite similar.
Yeah.
So
It's like the evolution of the natural
yeah,
that we got.
it's still a light natural color, but instead of being Latigo, it's bridal. All the other leather we work with pretty much is bridal, and we love the qualities that it has. And so to get that in that lighter color is just awesome. So the Latigo was really beautiful, and like, but it definitely had a different hand feel to it. I'd say it was a bit drier, but it also like kind of sculpted really well, which was nice to work with.
It's funny that you call it drier, but
You don't think so?
it's maybe it's
Then
gonna sound weird.
our
Yeah, you're
regular
probably right.
bridal?
Because like I feel like on the surface maybe, but like the actual, like you said, the feel of it, it was
It was-
slightly more supple.
Yes. Yeah, the whole thing of it, but on
Yeah.
the surface more dry, I would say, than like our regular bridle.
But it burnished beautifully
It
too.
burnished awesome.
A
It
lot of good.
sanded great. Yeah, it was really fun to work with. But I would say color-wise, it was a bit
Cool,
cool in tone and
actually.
kind of more like cool and pinkish, which is sounds a little like a cool pink tone basically, which kind of sounds a little weird to say because
Should I get another? Should I get the other one?
Yeah. Get like a really
I see that. That's fine.
But anyways, we wanted something that was a little bit warmer. We actually had gotten a hide of, they were working on doing a light natural bridal, and we got our hands on like the very first batch that came out, and we were really happy with the hide that we got. We worked with it. It works beautifully. The color is exactly what I wanted. It's still light, but it's more warm in tone.
I hope this comes across. So this is the it's not.
It's not going to come across
That's great.
because that still
This
looks
is
quite warm.
the current color we use, russet. Yeah, it looks a lot cool. It's much more pink in person.
Yeah, it's like a cool pink,
and
but
then-
maybe if you compare it to this.
Yeah, maybe this is. Maybe you can see the difference.
Oh yeah, it still
Sort
looks
of.
warm. It still looks warm, this one, but it actually in person is quite cool in tone. This is still natural.
This is much warmer, much like
Yeah.
more. I don't know if orangey undertones is like the right word. I don't think so, but
No, it's not really orangey. It's just warm. It's just warmer.
it's like a natural warmth, and it's coming across a bit darker even, I think, on the screen.
I agree with you.
So
Well, it's funny because YouTube and and Instagram are even different.
Yeah.
Like,
So, yes.
yeah. So, we will be replacing the russet latigo with the natural bridal, and we're super excited to do that. I think it's going to be really, really pretty. I did make one, I think, Big Bowery in that color in the new hide, and it looks so pretty.
We're also thinking about discontinuing certain designs that don't lend themselves to
As
the
well.
natural color.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're going to first work with this
Fully.
tone to
Yeah.
see if we still feel that way.
Yeah.
Because you brought up that you felt that the brass felt a little bit.
So yeah, so when working with the russet latigo, I felt there were certain designs, especially ones that featured the brass ring as like the closure.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like it didn't totally go together, and I was not sure like why exactly that was. And then
So it looks good.
It looks good.
It didn't feel right.
yes,
Like if
and
that
I
makes
think
any
what
sense.
it was
wasn't 100%.
is that obviously the natural is a lighter color, but then it was also very cool in tone. So that cool light tone with the brass just didn't give the contrast that our bags typically have. Whereas, I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, but the warmth of the bridal and natural, plus it is just a touch darker, gives more of that contrast that makes sense together. Whereas like the cool and the warm, like the cool tone of the latigo plus the warmth of the brass was just kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't meshing the way that I wanted it to. Whereas now the warmth of the brass plus the warmth of the natural bridal just looks really beautiful together. So like Nick said, we want to go ahead and like just put it into full run and see how it looks with everything, and then kind of reassess and see if we feel like any bags in particular should not be available in that color or if they should. So
What's your advice for leather brand starters? Trying to start your brand. Oh my God, we're way behind.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't.
I don't know why I said sorry. I didn't do
That's
anything. Just gonna grab something.
So that was part of our trip to Wicked, Craig.
Yep.
We had a great time. It was just really cool to see how everything works. And we didn't even see the whole process because
Right.
things are kind of staggered the way that they have to do their work. So we saw a limited scope of what they do. And, excuse me, we hope to go back, like maybe make it a yearly thing and see the whole process eventually.
Yeah.
Get to talk to Dave and everyone there again and just
Yeah.
have another
And
good time.
my thought would be that especially if we're going to do a custom color, we'd
Oh, yeah.
love to be there while that custom color is in process of some sort, or maybe coming out.
Coming out of the drum.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
So yeah, we'll try to see if we can kind of like manage it to be done that way.
We're gonna see if we can maybe hit up Buckle Guy in July.
Yes.
So-
So we're going to be traveling up north in
Northeast.
northeast in July,
North
and
of
so yes. Say it again.
Northern,
Okay.
not south.
Yeah.
How else do you say it?
So we're thinking we're going to try to hit up Buckle Guy on our way up and kind of get to see all of our vendors that way. So that'll be really fun and get to meet Hugh in person. And yeah. It'll be
Chat
really
it up, see what they do.
Yep. All that good stuff.
Could you do a special seasonal color?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was one of the thoughts. So we
Yeah.
were thinking if we did that. So there's a little bit of a learning curve because getting the color right, getting the aging of the color right, and then getting it into production is a bit of a span of time. So
Yeah, because it can like depending on how it all goes, you could get a color that comes out really beautifully, and then it oxidizes and is like a completely different
changes
color.
quick.
Yeah.
our goal is to keep it consistent, and
Right.
then like patina
And
is always
patina
the goal,
over time,
but
of
like
course.
over time, you don't want something that's just going to go from super light to super dark really quick, like Vachetta does.
Right.
So.
Yep.
And Vachetta's awesome. It's just not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Had an idea and I forgot what it was.
You were talking about seasonal color.
Yeah, so that was one of our ideas. And then, like I said, the other idea was to really kind of, with your help, figure out what color represents our brand best. And maybe that's like a new addition to our standard colors.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we just got to figure out what kind of makes
I mean, a
them
special color for each season. So the commitment to a color is
quite-
a little
it's
high for
pricey.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, if we have a warehouse space, if we have a team, for sure. Like that would be,
Doable.
in my opinion, ideal to do almost 2 a year.
Yeah, but I think we would probably start off with one that we'd probably release in a spring season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it's going. So we'll see if that makes sense for 2024 or if that makes sense for 2025 or what.
Yep. But definitely exciting stuff to be like thinking about and looking forward towards, working in that direction.
Someone asked about like building their own brand and
I'm going to let you answer this while I Skype these really fast.
great.
Always working.
And I think like it's tough. It's hard to know without talking to you personally to see where you're at and like what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and where
Your
you
goals.
need to go. What?
And your goals.
And your goals.
Yeah.
I mean, you can build a personal brand as a hobby. You can build a personal brand as your business. You can do all sorts of things. I think you always want to be building trust with your customer. You want to be as consistent as you possibly can be, and I think that means like how your brand looks on your website, how you communicate, how like the aesthetic of your products. Everything's got to mesh together, and I think that's like step one. So if you have a product and you want to show it to people, are people buying it?
The other thing I would say to like kind of like, it's not even devil's advocate because it's just the truth, but sometimes people will, I say especially creative people, and I can totally include myself in this because if it were just up to me, like we wouldn't, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we've gotten. But sometimes that idea of like, I need to deliver this like beautiful, like consistent branding and all this stuff. Sometimes that can be paralyzing where you feel like, oh, I need
So, real
everything
quick,
to be
you can't
perfect.
hear her probably, but she's saying
I have
that,
a
like,
microphone on.
Yeah, but Instagram can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
So what Leanne is saying is like looking at the entire scope can be scary, and it can also make you not probably try and start.
Yeah, what I was basically saying is like sometimes, especially as creative people, when, and especially in this day and age where we're constantly like seeing like very curated things on Instagram and Pinterest and everything.
Nobody starts perfect.
Yeah, that like you
Or ends perfect.
can end up getting paralyzed by the idea of like it has to be perfect before I launch, but it's also so important to just get started, because if you like have these ideas of these things you're going to do and you work and work and work forever on like making this beautiful website and taking these great pictures and but you've never even tried to like sell your item at a show before or something to that effect, you may be wasting your time because you don't even know if your things are sellable.
Yeah.
There's
You waste a lot of time that way.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like it's a balance of like understanding that, okay, I have an idea, an aesthetic that I want to put out in the world. I'm going to try my best to like get that in visually as best as I can, but it will be something that will always be evolving and I'll always be getting better and better as I go, because it's never going to be perfect right out the bat, and it's important to just get started sometimes too.
That's a great point. Well, you can't learn until you do that.
Yeah.
Like you can't learn until you put your stuff out there. And maybe people love it, maybe people don't. You have to experience that. And I think we try to plan as much as we can, but like nothing beats experience.
Yes. And the other thing too, that again, I feel like this happens to a lot of us creative type people, is you feel like whatever decision you make is like forever. And whatever decision you make is going to be what you're going to have to stick to. So you're like really going over it, overthinking it in your head. But the thing is like you can try something, and if it doesn't work, you can change it. Like no one is going to hold you to the fire because you like decide, oh, actually, I don't even know a great example, but like, you know, that you decide, no, my logo looks better this way, or whatever it might be.
And that takes a level of honesty like with yourself that not everybody has. So you have to be really honest, especially if, say you love like a product you made and you marketed it well, and no matter what you do, it doesn't sell. Like maybe it's not something you can sell. Maybe it's the wrong time for that item. There's a lot of different reasons why that could be, but there's nothing wrong, like Leanne said, with pulling back and going, you know what, we're cutting this, let's try something else.
And just to be perfectly clear, I'm saying all these things to you guys because these are things that happen to me. Yes. And luckily I have Nick to like pull me out of it a lot of the time.
I'm getting rid of everything.
But
start over.
Yeah. It's helpful to know where your weaknesses lie.
I ordered a blue purse, but wondering why this is the last blue offering. No, so we did a pre-order. I don't know if you bought during the pre-order time. It goes away, and then we batch them and send them out, and then it returns. So blue returned for the first time for this order week, and today's the last week.
I was gonna say
today's the last week for ordering.
Day, not week.
Oh my God.
Today's the last day for ordering. So if you guys want to get a bag in, you know, for your order, today's the last day. So do that.
Thanks for that reminder.
Yep. But yeah, blue is back.
We love navy.
Yes.
And
she's sticking around.
Yeah, I think you should get one. Get another one.
No, navy's not going anywhere.
It's not.
It's available as we speak.
I can't hear you though. See, I told you I couldn't hear you.
Sorry.
It takes a few years to build, I've realized. Yes, okay, that's another really great aspect. So I think people make the assumption that everybody starts where they're at, even though you know, like, that's not possible. Like, it takes time to build over time, and it takes time to build your brand. It takes time to learn from your mistakes. And all those little pieces eventually add up to something. It's not just like you do this, this, and this, these three things, and you're golden. We're constantly re-looking at everything we're doing and making sure either it's still working or if it's time for a change. Have we changed enough that something in our brand doesn't make sense anymore? Like, you always have to be re-evaluating your brand. Because even like large static, I'll call them, brands that have been around forever, they continually change. They have to maintain their market share. They're in a different position, but you have to both keep what people are drawn to, and also change maybe your approach to marketing or change your product based on trends and stuff.
Yeah.
Long-term trends, not just like this season's purple.
Right.
I'm at that stage and getting into the field helped a lot to understand what's working, what's not doing so well. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, if people are buying your stuff, they are. If they're not, they're not. And you have to ask yourself why they are or they're not. How many team members are there?
You're looking at them.
And 2. The master has failed more times than a beginner has ever tried. Exactly.
That's such a good. That's
great.
really good. I
That's
wonder who
perfect.
said that, or did you just make that up?
I didn't.
Not you. I know you read it.
Thanks so much. You're amazing. I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. I got my Ingrid Totes Sienna. I love it. Thank
Yay.
you so much. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's great. That's a good tote. I know Daniel's here.
Uh-oh, watch out.
All right, we're caught up.
Okay.
Sorry, we
Is there any over here?
got lost over here. Something in another language.
Okay.
So thank you.
Was there anything else where we were talking about that?
Like branding?
No.
Or-
We were. I feel like to go back, we were talking about the tannery.
Ah,
Is there anything?
the Tannery.
The tannery. Well, first of all, do you guys have any questions about our trip out to the
No,
tannery?
it's a quote, yeah.
Okay. And second, did we forget anything about the tannery that we want to talk about?
It's hard to, I made some videos. It's hard to put into words how cool it was.
Yeah.
And how cool it was. It was cool.
It was really neat to see everything happening.
It used to be a cheese factory way back in the day.
Yeah, we learned a lot of
Yeah.
cool things. There also used to be another tannery like down the road from it or down the hill from it, which is sadly no longer in existence, but it's just really cool. Also, like the school is like
Yeah, the school
right,
is right next to
there.
it.
Actually,
And
I
then-
thought was interesting. I feel like probably the people that worked at like the cheese factory back in the day would drop their kids off at the school and just go to work.
Yeah.
Oh, some people also, well, actually, I think one person said, like, oh, I hope it's, like, clean and everything. And, like, they,
It's dirty work, but like they do a great job.
yes, they have their own, what do you call it? It's not a, I keep wanting to say refinery. That's not the right
It's
word.
like a water
but
treatment facility.
yeah, they have their own water treatment facility. I mean, everything is vegetable tanned, which is obviously why we love to work with them. But, yeah, it's,
AKA bark.
yeah, tannins, things like
Tannins.
that.
Tannins are also in grapes. Dun-dun-dun.
All right. But yeah, it was really cool to see and really, really awesome to meet everyone. Everyone
Yeah, I
was
think that was the
so,
best part.
just so down to earth and friendly and like ready and excited to like explain to us
Yeah.
what they're doing. And
Jenna hid from us.
Jenna did. Jenna,
We'll get you next time.
we will. She also gave us free t-shirts,
She
which
did.
I'm super psyched about.
We gotta wear
We should
them.
have worn them at
I
the
know.
same time.
Maybe
That would have been
another time.
funny. Next time.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for having us.
Yes.
It was cool to see parts of the process. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on from that, I think.
Yeah.
So we have some hat news coming. We're not
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
disclose because we have to figure some things out. But
Yep.
there's some news around hats. So
In case you're
hold on to your
hats.
hats. What did you find to be the best way for advertising?
I'm gonna
I think it really
answer that in a bunch of holes real fast.
depends. Depends on your product. So kind of what we were talking about before. So think of the digital platforms as like a physical space. Like who hangs out on each one? Does that customer match your product? So that's like a starting point. So if you know your people hang out on
TikTok.
Instagram, or TikTok, you can advertise there and try it. You have to try it. Like that's kind of what we went back to before about brand building. You have to try some things and see what works and what doesn't, and why it doesn't work and what it doesn't. Like you have to be willing to make the risk. Like you're going to lose money before you figure out how to make money. That's just how it works. We have found, I feel, success on Instagram, and we started getting into YouTube a bit. We're going to start to make some longer format videos and try a bunch of different content there to see
What
if people,
sticks?
what sticks, and if people even want us to be there. So if they do, great. If they don't, we'll figure it out. There's a lot of things to consider when you're thinking about advertising. The other piece to that is I wouldn't advertise if you're not ready to take on the sales. So if you can't produce like success and produce like a lot based on the success of an ad campaign, then you're kind of getting yourself into a bad spot. So be prepared, and like ads generally are a way to scale an already successful idea. So if you haven't gotten to that point yet, I would say don't waste your money on ads before you're ready. Stupid Instagram update didn't let me know you were live. Oh no.
Oh, that's interesting.
We got a normal amount of people, so maybe it's just Daniel. Cool to see what your ancestors used to do, says your mom.
What'd you say?
It's cool to see what your ancestors did.
Is it my mom said that?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Leanne had a bag with her, so it was kind of funny to have a bag in the
Yeah.
place where the leather was made. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a ton of process that goes on, and it's not a slow process. So like,
You mean it's not a fast process?
not a fast process. It's a slow process.
Yeah.
It takes, I think Dave said, 14 days alone in like the tanning liquor. So, like, that's just
That's
in
just
that
the very
process.
first process, yeah.
Yeah. So they're de-haired, cut, and I think they go into like a wash, I think, and then they go into the tanning pools.
Look at my eyeball.
I'm gonna get the process wrong, so I apologize to anyone who knows better than me. Totally true. Don't oversell yourself without product available. Great point. Yeah. I mean, everybody, I think, wants their idea of success. So, like, you got to be so honest with yourself about what that means. Because, you know, if you put an ad out there, like, what are you expecting to happen? Like, are you expecting $1 million? Are you expecting $100? Like, are you happy with one sale? Like, you got to set expectations and then kind of adjust them as you go. Do you guys make patterns manually or using software? So,
Hold on, I'm done in 1 second.
manual. And then we do PDFs with software. We have a couple. We need to get on it.
Yeah.
How tall is the asparagus?
Taller than me.
Tall. It got to this point and then it stopped. It ferned, so it's seeding, and yeah, next year we'll be able to eat it.
Yeah, as far as patterning goes, I much prefer to
Tanning pits, yes.
do it on paper, in person, like in front of me, with a ruler and a pencil and that sort of thing. I like the tactileness of it, but also, and I've said this so many times before, but like zooming in and out on like Photoshop or Illustrator, you start to lose kind of perspective and proportion, and especially in proportion to like the human body and the scale of things. So I do prefer to do that all with pencil and paper. Eventually, I do have to make them into some sort of PDF, but that's just to get like, if we're gonna make get a die made, it's not gonna have like a ton of information on it. It's basically just a shape. But yeah.
Also, another point, growth alone shouldn't be like what's driving you. Like you gotta, there's gotta be a reason for what you're doing, and it can't just be, I wanna get large. And like Daniel said here, anything less than world domination is a failure. Untrue.
Can we talk about thread?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I really want to talk about thread. I think we mentioned it the last live, but I finally actually have been able to sew some bags with a new thread from Buckle Guy. And like, just a note, this is in no way sponsored. I'm just quite excited about it.
We haven't used this one yet, but we have used 3 other ones.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm really, really, really happy with the Dunmore thread. It's Dunmore, right? Yeah. From Buckle Guy.
I think it's pronounced threed.
Very funny. So some of the things that I really love about it, one, it's not, so first of all, it's bonded nylon, it's not polyester. The Vinimo, which I did really like, but I love the colors that they have, Vinimo, but that is polyester, so it burns a bit differently, like when you go to burn your threads at the end. And it tends to, let's say you're sewing one color, now you're gonna switch, so you're taking your bobbin out. The bobbin tends to unspool because it's just a much kind of like stiffer type of thread. It still works great in the machine, but that was one thing that really did bother me about working with it. I also honestly felt like it kind of broke a lot easier than I thought it was going to. But the Dunmore from Buckle Guy, first of all, really happy that they have the weight that we use. So that was exciting. Their color options are really good. I really like that it's not super shiny. I felt it's definitely more matte than the thread we were using previously, and definitely more matte.
I call it like satin.
Yeah, satin's a perfect term. Yeah, it's not matte, it's satin. It's really, really nice. But the best thing is that it sews really well. I felt like
She keeps saying I love this thread, and like I was like, well, why? And she's like, I don't know.
no,
it works, and it's like I trust it.
yes, I love it because it works. Like and so the thread that we had before, we've only ever gotten one color from Vinimo. All the other thread we got was from this other place that I honestly don't. It was not. We were having a hard time getting
It
consistent.
had to be like a third party situation.
Yeah, and if you work in sewing leather with a machine, you probably know how difficult it is to get like consistent quality and color from
Making
your.
jokes. Have you done more with the thread?
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's just difficult to get consistent quality and color from thread manufacturers that seem to be there. We've definitely have like, I don't know, 5 spools of like large spools of thread that came that we know we ordered the right color, but it's a completely different color than what we ordered from the other place, which is really frustrating and we can't use. And then the other thing to know is that thread has a shelf life. And I don't know if that is the problem with the thread that I had before, or the thread we were getting before, but I just felt like our thread it was like not fraying, but there would be times where I would have little like,
It got rough.
yeah, and little like fuzzies and stuff. I have not had a single fuzzy type of thing when sewing with the Dunmore thread. It sews beautifully. I have not broken a single thread. I've not gotten any flags with it. I've not popped a stitch with it. It's beautiful. It works really, really well. Highly recommend it. Again, this is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form.
Give me this.
Yeah. I also like how they packaged them because I feel like it's
Yeah.
not going to get dusty until I'm ready to use it.
Yeah, you can store this
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, also, just real quick, it is crazy smoky here, just outside of Philly, so it's probably why.
Thanks, Canada.
Yeah. Thanks, Canada. That's why
It's not
Nick
your
is
fault.
having a hard time.
It's okay. Yeah, breathing.
Yeah. And not coughing.
So
yay thread.
since we're so good at this is Navy.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it.
She's real pretty.
And Navy's back. So it's the last day for purchases for June. We're still deciding how
Yeah.
July's going to work out because we're going away. So we might open up for a little bit. We might not. We'll figure it out. We'll let you know.
Yeah. We'll keep you guys posted.
But yeah, this is Navy. It's back for the first time for regular sale, not pre-order. So it's just like so rich and has a good feel to it too.
It's really pretty.
It's-
I love it.
Each color has its own like
Qualities.
unique qualities.
Yeah.
And I like this one a lot. How often do you have to fix something that went wrong on a project?
Not that often. There are certain
I feel
things.
like for Leanne, they happen in a row, and then her frustration level increases until
she
I have to
explodes.
tell her to step away, and then she goes, "I don't want to, but I know I should."
Yeah. And then I either do or I don't, and it'll end either way.
But usually that's a breakthrough for how to fix the problem long term. So
Yeah.
it's not terrible. I think every once in a while, like mistakes just happen, right?
Yeah, and the key is to know how to fix them, really, because while people say, of course, when you're sewing leather, people say it is the truth that when you make a hole, you're committed to that hole. Like you can't. It's not fabric.
You can't
can't
unhole it.
Yeah, you can't unhole it. It's not going to go away. But if you,
That's a good question.
let's say, pop a knot, and what that means is like if you're stitching and all of a sudden, let's say your spool got hung up on something, and your knot, instead of being in the middle of your leather, is now at the surface or even on the bottom, you can pull out all of the thread, start in the same hole where you started, because your machine should be making the same stitch lengths every time, and just sew
Redo
it
it.
again. It doesn't affect
Like if
the
you
quality.
run out of bobbin, even like
Sure, yeah, that's another great.
that's like what happens.
Yeah, I try really hard not to do that, but yeah, it definitely does
We
happen.
need a bobbin low indicator alarm.
Yeah, oh
Bob-
yeah. That would be cool.
All right. got confused. Do you mind? So the smoke's also, for some reason, affecting my brain capacity, which is cool. Do you mind sharing what cylinder arm you use and recommend it? So yeah, we have 2 of them. We didn't name them yet, but we should. But they're Cobra Class 26 from their leather machine company. We love them. They're great. I believe they're like Juki 341 clones. They do everything we need. So if you're in the market for it, I would definitely recommend calling up the vendor or company and just like letting them know what you do,
Yeah, what it is you're trying
what
to
thickness
sew.
of thread you like, what thickness of material you're using, what kind of material. They'll walk you through what's best. But for us in bag making, we love this thing.
Oh, did we talk about getting the EPS on the second machine?
I really don't know. But I installed EPS on the second machine.
I don't think we've talked about it.
I did a video about it, so maybe that's why I feel like we might have.
Yeah.
So we got the new machine, which had electronic positioning system on it, and that allows us to basically have needle down through every stitch, or needle up. So like basically, you click forward once, it's one stitch length,
It also just to me is creating.
which lets you back tack perfectly every time.
Yeah, it's creating a more consistent, perfect stitch length.
Yeah. So basically it's just a sensor on the hand crank that tells it where the position of the wheel is, and it just keeps it there. So I think some people have some resistance to it because they're like, well, what if I have to turn the hand crank? I'm like, you can still do that.
Yeah, it's totally fine. I was very not resistant, but like concerned
I'm like,
about using
technology,
it.
let's do it.
But I love it. And so then I started to basically only use the new machine because I was like, no, this is way better. And then
No, she only used the new machine, and I was like, well, I guess I should just get the EPS for the second one.
Yeah, and so we did, and then I was concerned like how that installation would go, but
Great, lots of faith over here.
sorry. But it went great. So now it's awesome because we have 2 machines with the EPS, and I can sew the same. Basically, what I'm doing now is like before I was batching same design, same color together, and sometimes I would do like right now I'm doing 2 olive Boweries. One is a mini Bowery and one is a regular Bowery. So like, and they're both olive. So like that I can do at the same time. But now I can do the same design, 2 different colors, and sew them on the same machines without having to like switch my thread out.
Yeah, and you just did a batch of 4 Grettas in Sienna and 1 in Russet. So
Yep. Yeah.
like it's just helping us be that much more efficient. And like
yeah.
one bag doesn't sound like a lot, but over time, like if that's 1 extra bag a week that we can get out, like that's very helpful for us. It tends to be more than that actually, because now we have the combination of color or design to batch. Dun, dun, dun. I did have thread on there.
I was just excited about it. It's just working really
I've
well.
been trying to get somebody to get in front of the camera to do a bag tour, but
Blah,
it's just
blah,
taking
blah.
so long.
Wasn't feeling good.
Yeah, I think we're going to do the Greta next, because it's been a couple months since we got one of those out.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's kind of all I wanted to talk about for the agenda. So it's question time,
I
guys.
feel like there's other things, but I can't think of what they are. So come to me.
I feel like we're doing a bad job of promoting like the Sally and the Betty.
We are.
We always talk about them midway through or at the end.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
that's
next live we should just have them on the table, so we just what?
Nothing.
So that we talk about them right away or something.
Have you taken any measures to minimize presser foot marks? So yeah, can you move over this way?
Me, yeah.
Yeah. So first thing is your presser foot should be smooth on the bottom, like really smooth.
No teeth.
You can even no teeth, and you can even grind them down further if you really want, a little bit. But this, I don't know if you can see that, the tension rod. We loosen that up a little bit, and you do that in quarter turns until you're happy with the results. I think
You want to be really careful doing that.
We do experience like a little bit of marking, but it rubs out really easily.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure, especially if we're going through leather, that it can handle it.
By the time I'm done, like, burnishing the bag, you can't see any.
But they're not like deep indentations.
No.
So if that's what you're getting, you probably want to reduce the tension on the tension rod.
Yeah, just be careful with it. Like Nick said, quarter turns.
Yeah. If it comes up, it's spring, so like it can be dangerous.
Yeah.
So like don't just go like this and undo it.
No. Also, if you make it too loose, you'll end up getting flags, which are basically like, it's not a popped knot. It's almost like a loose,
loop.
Yeah, like a loop. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
So yeah, and you probably already know this, but like the whole machine's a balanced thing. So you can't like just, you want to do things as slowly and incrementally as possible. And we got this advice from Albane actually. If you want to keep like a journal of what you've done to the machine, so that you know how to undo something that maybe didn't work, that's a good tool.
Oh, but you did grind down like the
That has nothing to do with tension though.
No, I know, but I'm saying he was talking about like presser foot marks. The
Well,
machine was making a mark on that one thing that you ground down.
Yeah, I ground down the throat plate a little bit
Yeah.
to just get this edge nice and smooth. The new machine especially came with like some really like, it's nice metal work, but it's like, it was 90 degrees or 45 degrees. 45 degrees? I need to go back.
It's closer to 90 degrees.
90 degrees. So they were harder edges than what we had been using on the older machine, probably just from over time of using it. So I took a file and I just kind of ground off those edges so it's nice and smooth. So there'd be no chance that we'd get like marks from using the machine. That's a good question. It's funny, I don't think I realized how many kind of like little modifications to the old machine we really did until we got the new one. We had to like replicate exactly what we did on the new machine. So it took a little thinking, and it took probably about a week to get it like tuned up to exactly where it needed to go. So I'm not familiar with the weights of the Dunmore thread. I typically use 92 or 138
Yeah, they have 92.
weight.
132 is what we use.
And I list them as Tex 90. Yeah, so Tex and like the numbers here, 90 and 92 are the same. 135 and 138 are the same.
Yep.
Tex is just a slightly different measuring system.
But they have both of those sizes.
But yeah, they have those sizes. They have, do they have 69? Or is it, I can't remember if they have
If
one
they go
less
up
or one
one,
higher.
I feel like they have one less.
But they do have 3 sizes. What's the status on the men's bag? Yeah, Daniel.
Blowing you spot. Oh man,
What?
doing something over there. It's coming with a thing.
It's not its final form by any stretch.
Not even close.
Not even close, but I started it.
Slightly.
I don't even know if I want to show you this. So I sewed the pocket on it, and so there's going to be a lot of adjustment on this top flap, so don't judge it.
It's also
So,
not sewn at all.
It's also not sewn, it's just clipped. Because I'm trying to figure out the double gusset situation, so I'll show you that.
Look at that.
And this will end up being 15 ounces of leather right there. So that's pretty thick. So we're working on it. So this will come down. It'll be more like that on the edge, or on the side.
There you go.
But I was playing with how to do this with these pieces because I was trying to figure out, because
Oh yeah.
this top, what do you even call that? This male piece
There you go.
only can go like so deep. So so I had to figure out.
How
Actually,
to make
no,
that.
it's the other way around. This piece can't go through 2 layers of leather, so that's why there's a hole.
Yeah.
But-
That was like the main thing, because I didn't want that flap to be just one layer of leather. It needs that like rigidity of having a second layer to it.
Yeah, so this
So.
continues to be a work in progress.
It's getting there.
Did some slight progress on it. I did learn the brass hardware I got for this part, for the strap.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to sand this down a bit. Like I'll sew it and I'll have to sand it pretty close
Like
to
skive it?
No.
Oh.
Like sand,
Okay. The edge.
the edge,
Uh-huh.
so that piece can fit because that's the larger one.
You have to show me what you mean.
I will. Because right now it's exactly the same depth, so like you can't fit like a trigger clip in there. I'll show you later.
Yeah.
Taking the kids to school. You guys are awesome. Thanks for your live today. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, we did a really fun interview the other day.
Oh yeah, we did do an interview. Gee, you've got the biggest nose I've ever seen.
What?
Really? You like my nose?
What? Someone said you have a big nose?
I guess. I don't know.
That's odd.
That's really funny. We do the same thing with the locks connectors. Ah, I got it. Yeah, I think these are, I don't know if these are like a brand name. I think there's a bigger one that I might like. And I'm kind of torn between doing a single one or the double. I don't know. There's still quite a few things I want to work out. I'm excited to see in its final form. Oh, me too. So this is also in the Butero. So if it's good, it might become mine. All right. Can you come to your right?
Sorry.
I'm going to slowly go this way. You're going to come this way. There we go.
I didn't want to get paint on your bag. So.
Yeah, so once we get some of those details hammered out on that one, we'll decide if it even makes sense in our collection and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like the idea of a double gusset.
Oh yeah, that's something we've talked about in women's bags as well.
Yes.
So.
I still want to do the Greta with a double gusset.
Yeah, something similar to the Greta.
Hats, question mark. So we're not disclosing that information yet.
Yes, but there
is hat news.
Hat news coming.
Oh, another thing we learned about. So back to the tannery. They have like a deer embossed plating, so that only goes over 18 inches of the hide at a time. So they have to like stamp it, and then tumble it. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's interesting the scale that they have to work at. Like sometimes it's like so large, and sometimes it's like a lot smaller than you might expect.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
So that was one of the things that was interesting. Like the sprayer machine that you saw maybe in that video we put out, that goes through that machine, he said, I think 7 times.
Yeah, something
So
like that.
it can dry between each layer and get the right amount of finish.
Yeah, and like soaking into the hide.
And then they had like a whole bunch of skiving machines, which are enormous and
Scary.
quite scary. And the jack glazing machine.
The jack glazing machine was so cool. It was also scary though.
Yeah, it's basically
giant burnisher.
An arm that goes like this with a glass.
Very aggressively.
With a glass cylinder on it, and it just pulls up all of the oils.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that machine on like alligator. I've definitely seen that before, but it was really interesting to see it because like someone has to sit there and turn the whole thing and get the whole thing glazed, which is
intense. And he was saying that cylinder that's on there has been there, was like
that's the original one.
Original.
And I have a feeling that's how most things are in like manufacturing. It's like that's the original one.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's probably so hard to even like to start some new things at this point for like, who would even make that?
I don't know.
Because like such a small piece of a very specific machine, it's like where do I get that? So everything I'm sure is custom at this point. Yeah. Right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. So we'll get these 3 out the door today.
Hopefully. Should. Let's wait for that to dry. I'm gonna paint those.
I'll see that. Do you have anything else that you want to go over?
I'm trying to think of like, I feel like there were other things.
I'm probably going to get a scraps together soon.
Oh, okay.
They've moved from the floor to a table for further inspection, so we'll likely...
It's quite a process.
It is a process. I feel like time needs to go by for me to have
Be
a fresh
ready.
perspective on some of the leather I've already cut. Because sometimes I'm like, this is garbage. And I don't say that, but you know what I mean. I'm like tainted by a bag that I cut out that I didn't like. I don't know.
What? Can you put those down there somewhere?
Oh, so we found a new kind of podcast that...
That's what I wanted to talk about. I knew there was something.
I'm in their head. We found a new podcast for the leather workers, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
It's actually with
Nick Horween
and the guy from Ashland Leather, and I'm forgetting Phil.
I don't remember his last name.
His name is Phil. We hope that's correct.
It
It's
is.
called Full Grain. I was on YouTube and I just found it. It must have been recommended to me or something.
But you can also listen to it on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, on
That's
Apple
how-
too.
That's how I'm listening to it.
But they are basically just talking leather stuff.
This is not what I asked.
I didn't hear what you said.
Just put them down there somewhere.
Wasn't listening.
I need that. I need that.
Oh my God. But they did an interview with the guy from Portland Leather. They did an interview with Hugh from Buckle Guy. And they talk, because they're in the industry, they talk from Ashland Leather's perspective, like our perspective, and then they talk from the Tannery's perspective from Horween. And it was just really cool to see the different things they talk about.
It's really, really cool. I'm trying to remember who I listened to them talk to the other day. Sometimes they just do the two of them also.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name.
But it was like the first, I'm not a podcast person, so it was the first time I was actually listening. And I don't know if it was because I was also watching them. But,
yeah. I think you might be fine listening to them, though, because they have... I asked Nick, I was like, do you feel like you would be friends with Nick from Horween? He's like, yes, definitely. And I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like he has the same personality type as you or something.
Maybe we would hate each other. You never know.
Maybe. You guys have very similar
We would just stare off at the wall
cadence.
and not talk to each other.
That might happen, but you might both enjoy that a lot.
Oh, sounds good to me. Anyway.
But yeah, you guys should definitely... We first listened...
It's a newer thing they're doing. I don't think it's been around for very long.
The podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's quite a bit of episodes considering they've not been around that long, and they do a really good job. The one that we started listening to, or not, started off our journey.
I told Leanne about it, and I didn't realize she was still listening to it, because I had watched, I think, 3 or 4 of them.
The first one we watched together was Hugh from Buckle Guy, and it was really, really good.
It was cool to hear his history, too.
Yeah.
Good morning. I assume you're in your basement. A
Always.
smart financial move if you're doing it. Yeah. We are actually looking at spaces outside our basement.
We are.
But you can't beat the free rent. The landlord's all right.
Landlord likes us pretty well.
Yeah. They're going to kick us out. How are you feeling about this recent UFO discourse? Well.
What, you mean the fire?
No.
What's the
UFOs? Come on.
Is there a
keep
new
up with current events.
Oh, please. You told me that you thought that the fire smell was someone, having a campfire
Yeah, I had no
next
idea
door.
about the fires until...
Ridiculous. And I was like,
I don't
no.
know how I was behind on that one.
Forest fires in Canada. Get with it. What are you talking about?
We're
Was
just
there a
having
new...
barbecue.
Is there a new alien thing that happened?
So we'll find out.
Well, so you're telling me, you're acting like you know there is something, but you don't know. Is there a new alien thing? I follow
That's
all...
the government.
All right. I follow a lot of the alien stuff that's happening.
Yeah, I think it's about they're just about unidentified objects. It's probably about
UAPs.
about the so-called balloons.
So-called balloons. Okay, well, I already know about all of this.
Hello from Canada. Sorry about that. It's not your fault.
Or
It's
is
been
it?
so dry. It's crazy. I've had
my
to water
God.
my plants so much.
Well, to be honest with you, it's also terrifying because I'm worried that we could. I mean, they have a ton of forest fires right now in New Jersey, just across
Unless you
the river.
specifically cause the fires, you don't have to apologize. But I know it's in your nature to apologize, so thank you, Canada.
You are the nicest human beings there are. It's true. Ooh, another good podcast is. Now I'm gonna forget the name of it, because they have a segment that's called "Keep Canada Weird," but it's all Canadian news stories, and it's really, really good. I can't remember what it's called.
I'm sure they can find it if they're interested.
Nighttime.
Very Canadian.
The Nighttime Podcast, I think it's called. Highly recommend.
The Nighttime Podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's really good.
I feel like one of these times we're going to have like a guest on. We haven't done that in a very, very long time.
Definitely do that.
Take some of the pressure off. So much pressure. Oh, here we go. Basically, a lot of government officials are opening up about the hinting that we know about UAPs aren't made by anyone from Earth. Oops.
Is this
Either
Daniel?
them coming clean about aliens or, a distraction. I mean,
could be a
let's get honest. How likely, or how it's extremely unlikely
that we
there
are the
isn't
only
another being.
Yeah.
Just think about the scale of time. It's just...
Well, and also our planet isn't even that old in comparison to a lot of the planets that are out there.
Yeah, so...
So if there's...
It's all simulation.
Probably.
I'm only ironically interested in aliens.
Who said that?
Daniel.
Liar. I'm totally interested in aliens.
This is Rick, or Rich Roll, has interesting guests on his podcasts. Okay.
Rick Roll.
Rick Roll. Richard. This is his long name. Richard Rollington.
We call Wes Wesley Wesselton sometimes, and he calls himself that sometimes, which is my favorite.
It's getting weird.
When is it not
Yes,
getting weird?
aliens. Las Vegas, yeah. Studio 54.
What?
Area 51.
Okay.
Or 54.
Studio 51. That is in New York.
I know. Making jokes.
Or was in New York.
Making bad jokes.
Always.
What else do we got? Someone asked what's new in the shop, and I don't know if there's anything new.
The EPS and the thread.
Yeah.
And the leather.
I have another machine in my mind, but I don't think it's really time to get it.
Is it the...
Yeah.
One day. Not ready. No, it's definitely not time right now, but...
Or like...
Well, it might not...
There might be a point where we actually need to get a strap cutter or a skiver.
Skiver, yeah. Yeah, or a strap cutter, yeah. Yeah.
Potential,
Honestly,
but
I also
not
think...
in the basement. That's like outside the basement work.
Yeah. I also think right now, we talked about this last time, but we've got a really good friend of ours who's making our crossbody straps for us. And, you know, it might not really be that necessary to get that machine.
Well, it would be if the one leather we can't get.
A strap cutter would be,
yes.
not this machine I'm talking about. The rotary.
I mean, it would be good to have that capability either way.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like that would be like additional.
Yeah.
Did your overhead lights come with the house? So there were quite a few lights here. So the shop lights did. I converted them all to LEDs, which was a fun process. And then I have all these not spotlights, but these other LED lights for task lighting. So it's pretty bright down here. Good question. And these are just plugged into outlets. We had, the first thing we did when we moved in basically was getting the electric set up down here.
Yeah.
Getting outlets everywhere that we needed them. And then we rewired the rest of the house later.
Like a few weeks later.
What's the hand motion machine?
It's a rotary punch.
Yeah, rotary
from
punch.
Campbell Randall.
Yeah, that does Pippin punch style.
Yeah. It would just make making our straps a lot faster. But so right now, basically our friend, who you know who you are, who's making our straps for us.
We know who you are. I know your address.
He's going through like kind of one color at a time and getting us like batches of straps. So we're still making some of the strap colors right now because he hasn't gotten through all the colors yet. But eventually, they should be in a good rotation, I think.
Let's see. How did you guys start your brand? We kind of went over that in the beginning. If you missed it, I think no. Did we? No, we talked
No.
about branding. No.
I was like, I don't remember talking
We need
about
to
it.
get together like an official brand starting video, and that can be like the start video on
We
YouTube.
should do
We're
that.
gonna do that.
Did we not do that?
We didn't do that. We're failures.
We've told that story many a time, though.
So we kind of came upon leather by accident. A friend of ours had leather, gave it to us, and then we sat on it for a while, and then we worked in it, and we're like, this is awesome, yay! And then we made stuff, and then we did some
Yeah.
markets, and people loved our stuff too. It was really surprising.
It was shocking.
And then Leanne quit her full-time job when we had our son, and then we put more effort into Hemlock and Hyde, and then I quit my job a couple of years later,
yeah.
and here we are.
That was the fastest telling of that story I have ever heard.
A lot happened in between there. but
Mainly
that's the
because
gist.
Nick did it.
Do you ever use vintage machines, for example, a Singer Patcher? How did you find them? So
started
we
on a
did
Singer
actually have a
Patcher.
Singer Patcher, which is a super cool machine.
I think I found it on Craigslist.
Yeah, we took our friend's truck to New Jersey
And
and
that
got
truck-
it from some guy.
Felt like the brakes were not working on the truck.
Yeah,
or
there was a problem, but
or
it's fine.
something.
But we don't use any other vintage machines.
The quick,
A quick print's not vintage; it's just someone else's.
just used. Yeah.
Then you can get that new. Yeah, we don't use any vintage, perhaps. There are lots of people out there that do, especially like foot press kind of things, because they don't really make those the same way anymore. And we're not like super technology, machine technology people. Did you ever find that lighting is hard to get good photos or shop lights to really watch everything out? All right, ready? If you take your exposure down, that should help
On your phone
on your camera.
or whatever camera you're using.
But I actually turn lights off. I do most of some of the product photos, like right there on the leather, like on my table, and I turn certain lights off, and then I have just one diffused light source that I use.
What do you call those lights?
They're just like studio lights.
There you go.
Um,
Because when you say diffuse light source, it just sounds like it could be natural lighting or something.
It could be natural lighting. And if you can find a nice cloudy day, that might be good for you to do something if you're going outside. But yeah. What was the process for getting yourself out there online? Can you talk a little more about the psychology behind that, shifting into internal motivation for it, into the internal motivation for it?
That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
Who asked that?
Who asked that? Who are you? Natty T.
All right. And go. Answer the question.
So you're like trying not to be on camera again.
No, I'm trying to paint this back. Just in a second, almost done.
So we a couple things came together for us online. We launched our brand with an online presence. We had an Instagram. I think we even still had an Etsy. That was a failure for us.
Okay.
We had our website built, and I think, did I say Instagram? Those were.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
Yeah, it was just Instagram and our website.
And Etsy, but
Oh, and
no
Etsy.
one went to Etsy.
No.
We sold one thing exactly from Etsy. In the day, I was like, I'm gonna just get rid of this. So we sold something, and I was like, that's dumb. And then I just got rid of it anyway because one thing is not helpful. But I think you have to view your website like as a store, have all the information on there that anybody that would go into a physical space would need to make their decision. For us, it came. Like, obviously, we all lived through this pandemic, and for us, in 2020, Leanne started doing lives consistently, and we were getting more and more, like, internet traffic.
Yeah, and that was because we couldn't do our shows anymore in person. And so I was like, well, how are we going to reach people? And I was like, well, I guess this is a possibility. So, and that was also when lives were kind of like starting to be a thing too.
Yeah, they were new.
Newish, yeah. So.
But as we weren't able to do markets, like markets were how we made our first
Big sale, like
monies.
monies.
And then it shifted pretty quickly to online.
Yes.
For us. We had an article about us in Philadelphia Magazine, and that drove more traffic to our site than we'd ever seen. So we realized at that point, maybe we should put more focus on that.
Yeah.
And we did. I don't know if that helps you.
Well, there's another part I feel like to the question. How it translated to some internal something.
Find it.
Motivation? Is that what I said?
Shifting into, oops. Can you talk a little more about the psychology behind that? Shifting into internal motivation for it.
I did get that right.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question. I think for us, we knew that we didn't, like, the only other way to make more money was to do more shows. And I think we were just so limited by time because we have to produce and do shows at the same time.
And when we first started, we both had full-time jobs.
Yes. This was a true side hustle.
And even when I quit my job, like, let's be real, I was taking care of an infant. So it was basically like having 2 full-time jobs. Or 1 part-time and 1 full-time. Full-time
we
being
crunched the
baby.
numbers on like childcare and decided it was not really,
Yeah.
didn't make a whole lot of sense to have one income just going solely to that.
Which was definitely the right decision because then the pandemic happened. So.
And it worked out. Yay.
Sure it did.
And I think being online only is kind of like, it makes sense for us. It might not make sense for everybody. And it shouldn't make sense for us because, like, we sell an expensive item, we sell a handmade item, we sell something that is, you probably would want to see in person.
Smell, touch, feel, try on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit surprising in that way, but I think, like, we do these kinds of things, we try to show as much of what we do as possible so that people feel as comfortable as they can before making something like a purchase like this.
I do.
We also want people to love what they get. So if you don't, like, you can send it back.
Yeah, I do think that is a large part of our success. Is just also just being very transparent about the process and like actually showing how things are made. Because that was the other thing. Like when we did shows, we literally had moments where people thought that we didn't make the bags.
We were resellers.
And that we were resellers, right? Which was hilarious to me. But then switching over to, but like we always treated the shows like a place to educate our customers and like what we did. We weren't trying to sell. We're not like salespeople, but we were just trying to like educate on like what we did, how we did it. And then the materials that we use, because to me, I feel like that's one of the most important parts.
A couple of shows we did, we were literally down the street from our house, which was really cool. Like,
Yeah.
we're over there.
Yeah. But once we started doing lives and I could realize like, oh, I can show you literally how I make this, that kind of like opened the door to people being, especially then because people were stuck inside with the pandemic.
Yeah, people really connect with that part.
Yes, seeing it get made. I mean, it takes you back to like Mr. Rogers, right? And he would take you to, and honestly, that's how I felt too when we were in the Tannery a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, showing how things are made.
I should have worn my cardigan.
Yeah. Oh my God, you'd have been hot, but that would have been real funny.
Yeah, it would have been warm.
But yeah, like people just really connect with seeing how things are made, and I think part of that is just because it's not shown anymore. It used to be that you'd go into the butcher to get your meat.
A lot of people don't want to show how their things are made for reasons. So it's not just like, oh, we're not going to show you this. It's, well, maybe the conditions aren't great.
Or it's like proprietary, or the conditions
or they're
aren't
really secretive.
Right. Yeah, or they're like gatekeeping-y.
Yeah.
And that was another piece of it too, is that when we started, there was definitely gatekeepers, but there was luckily a few people like Parker and Whit from Stock and Barrel who were excited to show what they were doing and how they were doing it. And they really helped us a lot with like, figuring out what we needed to get and what we needed to do and just little things that like were just difficult. You couldn't find it like online or in books, And so getting that really awesome knowledge from them so readily and happily, it would just like we felt like we wanted to be able to do the same thing and pass it on.
What are your must-haves or favorite details in a shirt? Oh wow!
And a
All
button-up
right, so I'm
shirt?
weird. So
I'm weird.
I'm weird. Step 1.
Accurate.
I like when the top button, like this button obviously does this, but I never have this open or closed rather. I like when this button is a little bit higher up than I think a lot of shirts, sometimes they start like too low. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm not trying to show anyone anything.
Nick is very modest.
But for me, I like this button up a little bit more, and I actually probably prefer one more button. Could probably go with one more button
So specifically buttons are important to you.
in this situation.
Yeah, continue.
I like a smaller collar. I do like button downs, but I also, I don't need a button down. For me, my arms are longer than most people's.
He's a monkey.
So
He's got a large
they just are.
wingspan.
So like for me, sleeve length is important, and I also have pointy elbows.
And he makes holes in
And
the
I make
shirts
holes in all my
the
shirts
time.
right there.
He's got like a graveyard of dead shirts on the floor of our closet that are just
punched out the elbows.
yeah.
And I hate elbow patches, so
And you also hate
It's my
double-breasted. I
struggle.
feel like
Yeah.
double-breasted anything is not your fave.
Yeah, like two. And pockets are good, not always. Like it depends on the shirt. I tend to like flannels and like.
What about the cut of the shirt?
Yeah. So I
You definitely like a slim cut.
I like a slimmer cut because I don't like all this extra fabric like back here.
Well, when you're like kind of a skinnier dude, so that makes sense.
Just got real personal, Daniel. What else? About shirts.
What about the material?
So yeah, like I like flannels. I like Oxfords. And twill.
Something that's not going to wrinkle real easy.
Yeah, something that's not gonna wrinkle real easy.
No
I
linen
ironed
blends.
this collar this morning.
You did?
Yeah, because it
With
was
what iron?
That one. It was so bad.
Oh. My mom used to iron all of my dad's shirts for work.
Oh, jeez.
I know. That's like a real commitment.
What were your day jobs? I worked at Whole Foods for about 15 years. And Leanne.
I was the art director at a textiles. Well, I started off as a designer there, but eventually became the art director at a textiles company, doing print and pattern design, and I did that for about 10 years.
I certainly appreciate your demonstrativeness. Demonstrative. How demonstrative you are.
What does that mean, demonstrative?
It's just a
It always sounds
demonstrate.
scary.
Demonstrative.
Oh. It always sounds so scary because it's got monster
Good
in
work.
it.
Okay. Do you mind showing a close-up of the bag you're working on? It's not really easy.
Yeah, when that one's dry, I could pick it up.
Maybe she'll pick it up in a minute.
We kind of have the cameras set up in a certain
Yeah.
way so that we can get both YouTube and Instagram at the same time. So we try not to move them if we can help it.
Hard to get good footage of the jaundiced preteens working the machines in Malaysia. Oh, jeez. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that is so sad, but one of the things that excites us about what we're doing is if we have a space here, and we can then hire artisans and craftspeople here.
We can have a very clear
Yeah,
understanding how our people are being treated,
for sure.
and how our what would be a tiny factory, I guess.
To me, there's never going to be a time where we're not going to feel comfortable having the cameras rolling in a shop that we have.
Yes,
like, ever.
that's such a good. Except for maybe when I get like real mad, sometimes and throw stuff.
That's when we get our own TV show, and
And I
they
flip
play
tables.
the music. Brr, brr, brr.
Fuck this! Excuse me.
Oh,
Sorry.
you can't curse.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
See, we're
See?
fired.
That's
they're
why
gonna
we can't
cancel
have
us.
our show. And curse. I can see that.
Good thing it's like an hour and a half into it.
Good
No
thing.
one's watching.
That's not true.
But yeah, like I said earlier, I think a lot of places don't really want to show their process and who makes their things and all that stuff. And I think it's exciting from my perspective that we might have the opportunity to do something based around here.
Yep.
Even help out our local town, which is what kind of excites us, right?
Definitely.
Because we love our town.
We do. We have a really cute little.
We got to welcome to Summerfest.
Oh my God, that was so much fun. Wes got to see fireworks for the first time ever. I was a little nervous if he was going to be scared of them, but he was totally into it.
I slept weird. Like I have.
You said that yesterday.
I know, but
Did you
like
sleep weird again, or do you think you're
that's
still?
probably from yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like weird. When you're designing what generally inspires you.
shape is like my number one inspiration. I draw like sketches and things of other bag ideas. It's typically just like mainly focused on shape, and then I start to like think about the other details of it, like how it would close or how the straps would be attached.
The other way that I feel like you design is like you gain a skill and you want to see how you can apply that to something new.
That is true. Yep. That's true.
That's true.
That's true.
It's not false.
Sorry, I'm almost done with this one.
It's taking forever. She's working. I'm not.
Well, someone the last time, because I didn't work, someone didn't like that.
They're like,
And
"Why
I
don't you
appreciate
get to
them
work?
because get to
Give
work.
me my bags."
I prefer to work when we do this, if I can.
Let me say thank you. What else we got?
I don't know.
We're almost through all the May orders.
Yep, we are just a slight bit behind, but
We caught up
quite a bit.
Yeah. Throughout the month.
Yeah, we did.
Hopefully we'll keep that same pace for June.
Yeah, I think especially now that we have the EPS on the second machine,
Yeah,
I think we'll
agree.
do it.
I hope so.
And that Wes is in camp, which is 5 days a week, which is really nice.
I know. Lunchtime. See you later. Bye.
Well, and even thinking like Thursday almost kind of became a Friday.
Yeah. Well, Thursday was our Friday because
Yeah.
Wes.
But
didn't
now
have
it's like
school
Friday. It's Friday now.
on Friday.
Oh.
I know. I keep thinking about it. I'm like, oh, he's not here.
Yeah. we
Yeah,
love
we
our
love our
son.
It's nice to have space
But
for
like,
him.
sometimes you really need to be able to think, and he's a talker.
He's pretty demanding with his words.
Oh my gosh, kid does not stop.
Very verbal.
Very verbal child we have.
Verbose.
He is very verbose, and that's going to be what's on his report cards forever. I'm
Is
pretty
there
sure.
an easier, more efficient way to apply edge paint? Not that we found. I think that
We've tried like the edge painting machines, and they're just not going to be careful enough, really.
a lot of times, companies will design bags around the process and not around the actual design. If that makes sense. So they'll design it for the ease of manufacturing it. That's not always what we do. So
I mean, it's typically
It's never
never
what
what
we
we
do.
do. And then Nick gets mad at me for some reason.
yeah, for some reason.
Maybe because things don't fit in boxes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, maybe we just don't design for the boxes we currently have. Who knows? Who doesn't? Getting another custom box, that's real cheap and easy. But this is the method we found that works and is repeatable.
Yes.
And
You can also, one other technique that we have tried and found works really well, but I feel like we only do it, I don't do it on bags, we do it on straps, is using actually a foam brush, which is also great because that is such a cheap tool, and you just do like really thin layers. They go on really quick, they dry really quick, and then you do a second. I think we typically do 2 to 3 layers.
yeah, for straps, that's pretty easy to do.
But it creates a really smooth look. You do have to be a lot more careful, I would say, with like
dripping over the edges.
right. You don't want to have a lot of paint on that sponge brush. I don't use it on the bags just because of that reason. It just makes me nervous that I'm gonna get edge paint all over the bag accidentally.
Yeah, talking about mistakes, you can't come back from dripping a bunch of edge paint
Yeah.
on a bag.
Yeah.
So it's got to be precise. It's a good question.
Let me see if this is dry. It's almost dry. Okay. I'm so hungry. I want to eat this granola bar so bad, but I'm not going to chew in everyone's ear.
What else? What do you got? What are you doing? Who are you? What kind of videos do you guys want?
That's a good question.
Tell us about the videos. If we do, what kind of tips? What do you want to learn about leathercraft? What did you wish you knew?
Or what do you want more information about?
More information about?
Deeper insight into?
I kind of feel like we need to kind of start at the point where people are starting, they don't know
Yeah.
anything. And then we can get deeper from there.
Go from there.
How do you get the excess edge paint off your hands?
Soap and water.
Yeah, it comes off pretty easily.
Yeah, hot water usually takes it off,
Just a
honestly.
little from yesterday.
Yeah, usually I go to like pick up with like paint all over my hand.
It's
like,
water-based, so
they
it's
probably
not.
think I'm a weirdo. It's fine.
It's not any different than when we used to paint.
Yeah, that's true.
Paint with brushes.
With brushes.
Making art.
I want to work on these straps, but they're not ready yet.
I'm just gonna stare at you.
Oh wait, I could do one.
What is the best sewing machine that isn't super pricey for leather stitching? Well, so that's a hard question because like a machine's an investment. So I totally understand not wanting to spend, like these are in the $3,000 range. I totally get that not everybody can do that and start there. But it was one of the first investments that we made.
Yeah.
And I do recommend, like, if you can, to do it that way. You can finance them. The terms aren't fantastic, but that's what we did because we didn't have $3,000 when we started up to do that. But there are some other machines out there, and I can't.
The thing is, though, my piece of advice is it is better to save your money and buy the right machine
Yes.
rather than buy a machine that you're then gonna be unhappy with because it's not exactly right for what you want to do.
Yeah.
The most important thing when buying a machine is knowing what it is you want to sew. Like, and even if you're not there yet, like let's say you're just making wallets, but you know you want to do bags eventually, well, get a machine that can do a bag because a flatbed machine, you're not going to be able to do bags on. You're going to need a cylinder arm, but you can still sew wallets on a cylinder arm, and they typically come with, or you can buy separately, a tabletop
Like a bed attachment
that you can put on top. Yeah. But you could, I mean, I sew wallets on our cylinder arms. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I don't think you can spend under. Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing you could potentially
They're
do
not
is
cheap.
get something used.
That's true. If you're confident with your skills there, you can get something used, or if you know somebody getting rid of something that you trust them, you can do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times locally you can find someone getting rid of something that will give things away cheap or free because they don't want to move it, like a piano. But like specialized machinery can be very similar that way.
Yeah.
So if you're patient, you might be able to find something.
I
that
would
way.
say too, because of the pandemic, a lot of people did
Pick
get
up a
like
hobby and then
really
drop a
excited
hobby.
within leatherwork, and so I do feel like I'm seeing more of those used machines out on the market, like on Facebook Marketplace and eBay and things like that. So I would look into that and just like save those searches or whatever and see what pops up.
And like, for example, like these are from California, but if you're close to Springfield Leather Company, like they sell the Cobras. So like if you're close to there, you could pick it up and save yourself
a lot of money in shipping.
$400 or $500 in freight shipping.
Yep.
So it might help you, it might not. That's
but
a
yeah,
complex question though.
The other thing to know, or that is going to be important, is like what's the thickness of leather that you're going to be sewing? Because that's why we love the
And
Cobra
thread.
26. Yeah. Because it really hits the sweet spot of how thin we like to sew and how thick we like to sew. It can sew much thicker actually than we sew. But it's hard to get a machine that can kind of do it all.
You usually want to sew in the middle of your machine's capabilities.
Yeah.
You don't want to go super thin all the time or super thick all the time. You want to be in the sweet spot for the machine, so it's not struggling. It's just chugging along doing its thing.
Yeah, and then the thread size.
Yeah, the thread size is going to be important. And then obviously if you're using like a chrome tan or like a fabric, like that's going to be entirely different from the kind of machine that you need or want. What needle do you use? I've been using a 180/24 and wanted a smaller one. I think we use a size 22. I think it's a tri-tip. Yeah, 140/22. That'll help you. Can you even see that? Schmetz. And it's a tri-tip. There's different tips. You can get like slanted ones. You can get straight stitch. This one we find is really great for leather because it basically cuts. How do you get over potential copycats as a result of demonstrating so much of your process?
I don't
You
even.
do and you don't. I don't think it affects us the same way it used to. 'Cause
I don't think. First of all, one thing I want to say is we do show a lot of our process. I don't really think that actually affects people copying us or not copying us.
I agree.
I think people are just look at our bags and try to figure out how to copy it.
Yep.
And people are going to do that whether you show the process or you don't show the process. So I try not to let that ever hinder us from showing what we do.
Yeah, like once a month we find somebody that
Yeah.
bag looks really similar.
A little damn close. Yeah.
Um,
Then we find one person that decides to literally rip off like 5 of our bags at
yeah,
once.
that was cool. Yeah, it's tough. I think, like Leanne said, you can't stop it from happening. One of the things that's cool about us is
Not
like
that I don't get
she's
mad
always
about it, 'cause I
designing,
do.
so it's not like our collection is static.
That's true.
So there's that part. It's still frustrating every time. And it's kind of frustrating from the perspective, in my opinion, like if you're a maker and like I totally get copying someone's design to learn the skill and to learn how to do it.
Sure.
But to produce those for sale as like your own is a different thing.
That's the point where it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Or
that's
is
just
extra
so
frustrating.
disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I also feel like people copy master paintings all the time. Like that's the point. Like you're learning their technique and the skill
Right.
to then apply to your own work.
Your own
So
technique, your own
the
style.
applying to your own work is where we'd really like people to get to.
Yeah.
Like I said, I get copying something to learn from, but stealing is different
And selling it.
and selling it as your own.
Oh, you gotta make me top handles, senor.
Ah, crap.
I was like, something's missing here.
What brand are your machines? These are Cobra Class 26s from Leather Machine Company.
Yeah, it was-
Do you have a big splitting machine? How do you split big pieces of leather, or just use a bell skiving machine, split inch by inch? So we don't have a skiver or a splitter or a bell skiver.
We just have a tabletop skiver that I use for like the ends of our straps. You can see the other skive down.
So we get strap weight, about 10 to 12, and then we get bag weight, which is about 4.5 to 5. So we don't really have to bell skive anything.
Not yet.
Not yet. There are some designs that we're thinking
In the future.
you might need those, but
Yeah.
those are expensive, so we're holding off on that. And then we have like a tabletop skiver for. Did you show that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Remember, I almost hit you in the face with it.
No, I don't. And then we get whole hides in, and then we cut them down for the panels, so we don't really need those machines. She's boring. She's boring.
I just want this to dry so I can use it. Usually we have a heater going that I dry my stuff with much quicker, so
Can't do that right
it's a
now.
little loud, so I won't put it on.
These are good questions.
This granola bar is like haunting me. Don't look at it.
I tried the 140 22s and wasn't picking up the bobbin thread. I was thinking maybe it was too short. What size thread are you using? That's the
I
other
wasn't
question.
picking up the bobbin thread.
Or did you put it in backwards?
I was going to say maybe it's just not in the right way.
Because sometimes I've done that.
It's weird.
The kerf has to go towards the machine. Yes. Stop yawning.
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night and Wes kept waking me up.
Thanks for being honest and open. Yeah, that's, yep.
That's what we do.
Would you be working with exotic leathers such as crocodile? We don't have any plans to. That's just not something we're really into.
Yeah, it's just not aesthetically anything I'm interested in.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, there's a lot of aspects to it. But like crocodile or American alligator, there's like a supply of that because they call the population down there. But yeah, we don't really get into exotics. I know there's been a lot of like push for exotics, but it's not something we're really in.
I'm not entirely sure why. I would love to know that reason.
I'm sure
why.
they might be higher margin. I don't know.
Maybe. They're so small though too.
They are so small. That's what makes them tough. like the size,
And then the thickness of
And-
the leather itself.
and like consistently sewing through the different texture of like a crocodile.
Yeah.
That sounds terrifying to me.
Yeah, I feel like you'd get a lot of popped knots, potentially.
That's why you get that Juki machine that has like the auto tension
That is so cool.
and like technology. It sews for you.
Sews for you. No more sewing. They do it for you. Try. Alright, I need to stop looking at that 'cause that's just not something I can do.
It's not gonna dry if you look at it.
I know.
Ask Leanne questions.
Oh boy. Where are you going?
Right here.
To
I'll be right back.
Okay, great.
Jeez.
Maybe I'll
I
start
really hurt
another
my side
batch.
somehow.
See, this is always a problem. I get to a certain point, and I really want to get these bags off the table before I start the next batch, but I really could start the next batch
Why don't you put them over there?
on your table.
I guess. She's like, okay.
Sure.
Because then I have to make the top handles.
Yeah, you do.
Did you jerry rig a machine with the chains to make them foot operated, or do they come like that? No. We drilled a hole in our shop table, put a chain on our press, and then put a leather stirrup on the
You
bottom.
might be talking about the chain on the sewing machine.
If you're talking about that, that comes on standard on sewing machines.
Yeah, that's so you can use that pedal to lift the presser foot, but I don't like. I never use it. I thought I might use it with the new,
But yeah, I mean, you can get foot operated presses. Leanne is short, so she has a hard time with leverage, so we had to change that. I use the
Accurate.
top handle. But it is definitely helpful sometimes when you have a project and you need a foot.
Yeah, need two hands.
Two hands, yep.
Yeah.
I love watching your videos. Working in the workshop makes me feel calm when seeing you making nice bags. Cool. She heard you. I was asking about the presser machine. Yeah, so the presser, the
The rivet set.
rivet setter, yeah, we changed that up.
It is meant to be able to attach a foot press to it, though.
Yeah,
It's
it
made
has.
to
They
do
had a
that.
table for sale a while ago. I don't know if they do anymore, but it had like an attachment situation. I think in normal world, like there's a metal piece that looks like this. You put a bar through it and like lock the ends, and then you can connect like a metal bar
Isn't it like that thing?
that way. Similar but different.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't had to change, I think, any other machine.
No, I don't think so.
Besides putting a box on the and
Oh,
a vacuum on
yeah.
the sanding machine, the sanding wheel.
Oops.
What else you guys want to know about leather
Do you want to
and
know?
craft and leather craft? Crowther laughed.
That'd be fun.
I'm just gonna stare at you.
It's getting kind of late. We could also just run if there's no more
Yeah.
questions.
We'll probably get going soon.
We're threatening.
I'm getting hungry.
I'm starving. What was that? That's a pretty piece. You okay?
Yeah.
Just ran away. Alright. Let's see.
Because we're so good at this. These are also back for the first time in June.
We
So
are
this is a
good,
Sally. Today's the last day for order week.
though. Yes.
So zip pouch.
Oh, this person just asked if order week is
Pull-
closed yet. No, today is the
same.
last day. Last day
Put
for
all your
order
things
week.
in there, like most bags.
Like most bags.
And then here's the Betty, and this is the navy leather, the navy milled. There's a good shot. It's so tough. Talk about double gusset.
The thing is very satisfying to use.
Yeah, it is. It's like, Do you have compost bins for your garden?
Kind of.
Sort of. I have a raised bed that is
Currently a
currently
compost.
a compost. And then I'll have to build, once I have enough soil for those two, I will build an actual composting situation so that we can do that. Spring's my favorite because compost. What does the new sewing machine do that the old one doesn't do? It's exactly the same.
Doesn't do anything. It just there's two things it does. It creates it creates a backup plan. If something broke on the first machine, I have the second machine, so I can't, I don't have to stop working while Nick would fix something. Not that anything's
Planned
really
redundancy.
Yeah, not that anything's ever broken really, but we've had like a timing issue before where he had to work on it and I couldn't do anything. So having that is kind of like insurance that I can just keep going. And then the other thing it does, which we were kind of like holding back on, so Nick got EPS on the old machine as well, so now they're sewing exactly the same. So now I can do groups of the same design in 2 different colors at the same time. So it's creating just more efficiency for me, which is awesome.
That's what it does. Will you do any more in-person shows? We've talked about it. If we ever get to the point where we have enough products to do that, we might do like 1 a year or something. We very much love getting out to do those, but we've been limited with the amount we can produce since our online sales have just worked out for us.
Yeah.
This person wants to make leather from,
From what?
Nope. EPS stands for Electronic Positioning System. So it knows where the needle is basically. So the way we have it set up is a needle down. So it sews and always will stop and needle down. If you click back one, it'll do one more stitch, needle down, and if you click forwards, it'll just needle up. So needle up allows you to release your project, and needle down ensures that the stitch is consistent each time. And then it also allows you to back tack perfectly every time. And you don't have to to guess.
Can you kick them off? Is that a thing you can do?
I have no idea. What do you suggest for making your show booth look good? Aha.
So,
buttons.
the thing that I would say is treat your booth as if it were like a little store, like a 10 by 10, typically the size of a booth. Imagine it's a little store that someone's going to walk into. So you want it to feel like, however you want it to feel, try to make that happen. So when we would do ours, I had like a vintage Persian rug that I had in the middle. I made 2 wooden tables for either side, and then we had a regular folding table at the back, but I put, like a muslin cover on that, and then I would merchandise everything really specifically. I had lots of sheepskins out and things like that. I tried to make it feel warm and cozy, but also like the store that I would, in a very small sense, I would want to have for us.
So you went crazy.
I loved that part. I really love that part. Ideally, we'd love to have a flagship store at some point.
You can stitch soft leathers.
Oh yeah.
Someone asked.
Okay. The other piece of advice, then you do not have to do this at all, but I might just be crazy, but I found this to be really, really helpful, is basically I used to use I guess would have been our dining room as like a place to stage exactly how I wanted our booth to be. So minus the actual tent itself, I would set up our tables exactly how they would be. I would set up all of our bags and any sort of like decor that I wanted to be in there just as I wanted it to be day of the show. And then I would go and take pictures of each table kind of like going down the line. And so when it was time to set up, you got can you hit that, Nick? YouTube is paused.
Uh-oh. Oh no.
I guess we should get a plug and like plug them in.
Can't
Sorry, guys.
plug it in and also have Microphones.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Apple.
But yeah, so I don't know if you guys totally missed what I said. Who asked the question? Was it on here or was it on there? On here?
Hmm?
Okay, cool. So I didn't miss anything. It made setup day a lot easier because I would send Nick like a couple pictures of one of the tables so he could start setting that up for me, and I would
Then fix it.
refer to
And
my
then she would fix
photos
it,
and
And
set
then she
up
would fix it.
my table, and then I go over and fix his table.
It was fine. It honestly.
It just
It
made
sounds
it so I
crazy.
didn't have to make decisions on the day of what is already kind of a stressful day.
It was really helpful,
Thank you.
even if I thought it was a little bit weird.
Oh, it's always, what don't I do? That's weird. Come
Yeah, come on.
on. So yeah, those are my two big pieces of advice. Lastly, I would just say like really consider the way your tables are set up or whatever it is that you're using to put your product on. You want the booth to feel inviting and not scary, and not like you're just gonna like attack people as soon as they come in. Not that you would ever do that, obviously, but like it can be intimidating in those spaces. So you just want it to feel as welcoming as you possibly can.
The other thing that's difficult usually with leather goods is creating height as for merchandising. So we got stands that we put bags on, so we could have different levels.
And then I also made like wooden, I guess you could call them like freestanding shelves,
Yeah.
kind of. They were like, had, you know, thick peg legs on them and then wooden top. Now they're my shoe stands in our closet.
Are they?
Yeah. And yeah, so we would create height that way. I think when we first started, I even got like wooden crates from like Michael's or something, and I would kind of put them up on that just to create more height. Also, if you're doing leather goods, things to consider are wind, well, just weather in general, but wind and sun. Sun is going to tan, especially if you're using any veg tan stuff, it's going to make your product darker or potentially make like a suntan mark on it. So you want to make sure that everything is like not in the sun as much as you can. And if it is in the sun, that it's maybe like a black bag instead of a natural bag. And then wind can blow things over. So we used to put all these bean bags. I think we just got them on Amazon or something.
Yeah. And the same with the stands. They were just brass stands, I think.
Yep, we got those on Amazon. If you search like brass bag stand, it should come up, something like them. But we would put bean bags in the bottom of the bags to give them some weight so they didn't just like fly over in the wind.
How many designs did we take to shows? I think we tried to have most of the designs represented in
every color.
In
at
least 3 colors.
Yeah, I think at the time we were basically doing 3 or 4 colors.
Yeah.
Probably
Which
3.
is hard. It was difficult.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, luckily, like, not, I guess, whatever. So our online sales at that time weren't really significant. So we had time to get that back stock and then have the opportunity to do the shows and have them all there. So
yeah. But that would be where I'd want to be
for us now,
to do any
that's
show.
what, like 12 designs in 5 colors.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot of bags.
60.
It's a lot of bags.
It's a lot of bags. Which would be.
But that is where I would want to. That's
Wow.
how I would want, at the least. That's how I would want the show the booth for us to look.
Because don't forget, you're representing yourself, so like people need to see all that. Another way to do it is potentially like to have one of each of your product, and then they can put an order in with you there if they're willing to do that.
Yeah, that was
It can be
something.
a little tricky, but that's something we can do.
Yeah, that's something we were considering for a little while when we really wanted to get back to doing shows. But
it might get weird telling people that's not actually for sale right now.
yeah, or like you can order it. To be honest with you, I do think that it would work for us because people at this point.
If we explained that that's what we were doing,
Yeah,
I think it would be
especially as long as we had like a bag in each color.
Yeah, one of each.
Like as long as the colors were represented somewhere and each design was represented at the same time, you could
That's
kind of.
true.
Not to mention we
People
have them all.
definitely do like to see exactly what they're buying, though.
Of course, but we would also have them, represented on the website where they would place the order, so
True.
you could kind of visualize what it would look like pretty easily.
I'll just walk around the booth with an iPad. Can I help you?
Super techy.
What are you looking at? This?
Is it this one? Comes in these colors.
I live in Southeast Asia. I want to buy online. Is it possible?
Yes.
So we do, we ship worldwide.
So what day is your last day for order week?
Yeah, today's the
Just
last
to
day for
reiterate
order
that.
week, so.
Yeah, otherwise we
The next-
potentially will open in July 1st, but we are planning on taking a vacation at the end of July, so we're just trying to figure out exactly how we're going to handle that.
When did you decide to quit your jobs? It happened over time. So you did in 2018?
Yeah, when Wes was born.
And then I
And that
did in
was like,
2021.
yeah, that was like somewhat planned, I
Yeah.
would say.
I mean, much more so, I think, than mine.
Yeah, like I knew yours was coming, obviously, but like, it's not like you just like randomly walked out. Well, we kind of did, but, yeah, I mean.
To me, that
obviously
was like the
nobody knew it was coming.
culmination of a lot of stress
Yes.
over pandemic-related timing.
I fully agree with you.
It was
It was a lot.
surprising for everybody.
Yeah.
All right. But yes, so the long-term goal is, if our business was successful enough, was for us to both be working in it. So we had to wait basically for that to happen.
Right.
So from 2017 to 2021, what was that 18, 19, 20, 21? 4 years is how long that took
For us to both be in it.
for us to both be in it.
Yep.
And that was pretty slow growth over the first couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we put more time and energy into it, we found that it was
Giving us more.
giving us more. So we really felt at the time that the potential for what we were doing was higher than the our current jobs. So that's like the cost benefit analysis you have to make, right? Is this able to maintain your current lifestyle, or are you able to reduce your lifestyle
Mm-hmm. In order to.
do that and push it forward?
Right.
So like, this is all a risk. So potentially it could not work out for us still, but
I hope it does.
we hope it does. I'll come for a visit to the East Coast second week of August. Hope you're there. Surprise, surprise. Mike, or Ava or Mike, I don't know who this is, but you're always traveling. That's insane. Is the payment method possible with PayPalm? I don't think I know what that is. You can check to see. We take major credit cards, so if you want to do it that way, you can check out the checkout page, and it'll tell you. I don't know if I've ever heard of PayPalm.
No, I don't think I have either.
How many cows would it take to make a 4-man teepee out of leather? Is this Daniel?
He's on both.
I know.
I have no idea.
Sounds like quite a bit. I mean, it's
4-man
24 square
teepee.
feet for a side.
Teepee's pretty
about, big. So it's about roughly 48 to 50 for a full cow. It's pretty large. So I would say 4.5 cows.
Yeah, that sounds good.
5 with a door.
With the door.
Was it
Big
hard
door.
to do both jobs?
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
I think so. Like doing this for us was an outlet in a lot of ways, because we're creative people and we like to do these things. So it wasn't like a slog. Sometimes it was difficult and not fun, but that's how it works. Like it's not all fun and games.
Yeah.
We don't ever want people I don't want to take away from how hard it can be. We enjoy what we do. We love it. This is great. This really works for us. Getting here was not easy, but yeah, that's how it works. Like I think I said earlier, people all see like the success stories where it's like an overnight success. Well, how long did it take to build to become an overnight success? How long?
Yeah,
What
that's
didn't you see in that story?
unrealistic.
Like you're missing the first probably 10 years of difficult work. Because 10 years is like how long it takes, in my opinion, to be like, it's like make or break at that point. Like, is this something that's going to work or not?
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even there yet. 2027, we'll see. Will we be here every week? I don't know.
Hope so.
But yeah, it's a lot of work. I think for Leanne, as somebody, like my job had my hours all over the place anyway. So like when I work, I feel comfortable working whenever I feel like it. Like I can work at night, I can work in the day. I do prefer the morning, but that's like Leanne's time, so
Sorry.
it's fine. What you do is more important anyway.
It's not true.
What you do is definitely more important for day to day,
I guess.
I guess. I love your bags and business. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Are any of these monogrammed? No, right? You said.
There's only 2 left for monogramming.
Yeah, but
Let me
what are
double
the
check because don't want to be wrong.
Hurry up.
Oh no, there's only one more monogram.
And it's a Shelby, right?
Yeah, mini. I think mini Shelby
Okay. So
for the mate orders.
Okay.
But yeah, that wasn't an easy task to do both,
No.
and then have a child,
There was definitely times.
and then move a house, and then
Stop hearing flashbacks. There were definitely times when we were doing both that I felt frustrated and like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I think it was.
and we almost just stopped.
Yeah.
We almost quit.
Yeah, because I felt like, I was working 5 days a week, and then I was spending my whole weekend working on Hemlock and Hyde, or at least it felt that way. And it didn't necessarily feel at the time like we were making a ton of progress. And so I felt like, well, I'm losing my weekend, and like, while sometimes I really loved it, sometimes I just really wanted to like go hang out with my friends or something. And at that time we didn't have a kid, so. But once it kind of like things started to pick up a little bit more. Actually, I feel like we had a conversation about it. I could be wrong.
We did. We set an ultimatum for ourselves.
That's what I thought.
I think.
Yeah.
And we said if it's not, if we're not happy by or successful by this point, we'll just call it. We'll do something else.
Yeah. Yep. And that was really helpful because I think that was the part for me that was so difficult is I felt like I was giving up my weekends to do this thing.
For what?
For what?
Yeah.
And I didn't see like any sort of like necessary like end point or goal. And I mean, obviously the goal is to be successful, but that's so vague, especially when you're in a day-to-day kind of thing.
So vague. Well, and when you're not feeling progress, that's when it's hardest. Or when you're failing, that's when it's hardest. Like, anyone can be like, oh, this is so much fun, we're making money, everything's working, nothing's broken. But when you're not in that point, or when you're before that point, or when you go through the ups and the downs, it can definitely be like scary, challenging, hard, all those things. And you can definitely want to give up. Like, I think there was at least 2 times when we were like, we set ourselves that goal, and we're still here because we talked about it at that point, and we're like, you know what, we do feel that there's still more for us to do here, so we're going to do that. What was the most stressful thing when you started, like logo, design, website, production, shows, social media? Thanks for the tips. So I don't feel like those things to me are stressful as much as like, so like pretend you're in a band, like the band is part of your family now. This business is part of our family. You have to consider it in an entirely different way than a hobby. And you have to be on the same page with whoever you're doing it with. And for a lot of people, the communication between themselves and their spouse or their partner or whoever isn't strong. So if you are envisioning this for your business and then Leanne is envisioning that for your business, and you both find yourself separating, like any relationship, that can be so hard. So if you're not continually upkeeping that conversation and that relationship, including your business, you're going to be in trouble. And I think that's the hardest piece for most people. I think for us, I'm just going to say it was like the unknown, like kind of like what you were saying. Like we weren't sure if it was going to work. And we didn't think about, or I didn't think about it this way because we were enjoying it to a certain degree. But like we put a lot of money, time, and effort into it. And if it didn't work, that would have been devastating. But we couldn't let that alone make our decision.
Yeah, I tried to completely put that out of my mind, to be honest.
That's fine.
I do. I totally
When I tell her
do.
how much we have to spend on things, she's like, oh, God, don't tell me that.
It's true.
But we divide up our tasks, so I don't care.
reason.
I'm used to, like, in my old job,
Yeah.
I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on machinery because we needed it. And
We don't spend tens
We
and
don't-
thousands
we
of
don't.
dollars on our machinery. Just
but
saying.
like
Oops, sorry.
that was a skill I learned and knew how to, like, money's a tool to get the thing you need. It's not anything else. Anyhow, I think as always, looking at it now, it can feel overwhelming because of all the things that we do. But like we've grown in taken a piece every time
Yep.
and like slowly
We-
built it.
Right.
Slowly
We
built it.
let the business tell us when it was like time to buy a new piece of machinery. We like definitely grew as organically as we possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
The only time we ever really bought anything without having sales was our sewing machine.
And like the creative parts that you kind of mentioned, like those in my opinion, were the easy parts because that's what we like
The
to
fun
do.
parts,
The
yeah.
fun parts, not easy. So, and that's where people outsource those things. Like they'll find someone, a local artist or somebody that can help them with that kind of stuff. And if you can't design logos yourself, luckily we have that here.
Yeah, we went to art school for illustration, so that's another piece of the pie is that we have like a strong design background.
But if you need help with something, don't be afraid to
Yeah, don't feel like you have to
find-
do everything yourself either.
yeah. And to me, that's going to be the hardest point a little bit later down the line
yes, I
for
agree.
me, because I
Uh,
like that we do a
really.
lot so much here,
Yeah.
and I think
This is frozen.
Oops.
Sorry, guys.
I like that we do a lot of stuff in house. So it's going to be really hard down the line when we expand or grow, if we do, taking a step back from that. Like to me, I think the day that I don't get to take photos might be pretty sad. I might still
don't
do
know
it.
if you would let that happen.
I don't think so either. But
Just
that's
like
when you get to choose the things you want to do all the time,
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
But yeah, probably answered your question. Maybe it didn't.
We have to
I
get
don't know if you're
going
still
really
here.
soon. Or
Oh
now.
wow, we have to go.
Yeah.
Oh man, how'd that happen again? Do you guys have an offline store? We don't.
No.
Okay, we gotta go. We gotta get our kid.
Yep.
Happened again.
It happens every time.
Thank you for your questions. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Think of all your questions until that point.
Yes, and just one last time. So today is last week, or the last day of order week. So if you wanted to buy a bag this month, it's time to do it.
Don't do it. I won't bother.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye, guys.
Are you sure you want to end this? I said I did.
Oh, I get to eat my granola bar now.